Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 5 of season 4 of our F125 VCarb driver career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here on the Jeddah Corniche for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live a couple of days ago from Bahrain, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. It was, as always in Bahrain, a very interesting race. Of course, multiple different strategies and new teams proving themselves to be a force to be reckoned with so far this season. And sadly for us, our lucky win streak, it did come to an end. Lando Norris bagged his first victory of the season, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. I guess now he's going to go back to 22nd here in Jeddah, or 20th, sorry, I should say. You never quite know what will happen there. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton still in P3 overall, just ahead of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc as well. So 4 drivers from 4 different teams in your top 4 so far this season. Not quite the same success for Isaac Hadjar, who still that one solitary point from the season opener has all he's got. But we could see every single driver score points this year. Colapinto, Stroll, Bortoletto. I think Bortoletto's the least likely to manage it. But fingers crossed we get everybody on to the top 10 at some point this year. Constructors-wise, though, with Lando Norris's win last weekend, it means McLaren now top of the table, 8 points ahead of us down at VCarb. We are still ahead of Red Bull, though, at the moment, which should be hilarious if we can hang on to this throughout the course of the campaign. Once again, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody as well for helping us surpass 15,000 subscribers here on the channel. I guess the next goal, of course, is 20k, and maybe down the line we could get another one of these. Who knows as well. But yeah, if you're enjoying the driver career mode, it's not going anywhere. I really do kind of want to play the long game with this, especially with the news that obviously there is going to be no F126, so I'm sure we'll do some updates and things like that with it down the line as well. But yeah, without further ado, let's head out onto the Jeddah Corniche.
Welcome to the Jeddah Corniche, one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. But let's see who will be fastest of them all. We're about to set the grid for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yes, it's qualifying.
Well, once again then, the night sky has descended upon the Jeddah Corniche, and that means qualifying gets underway here on one of the wildest racetracks in all of Formula 1. This will be a venue that really exposes driver confidence and any kind of car weakness or instability that you can possibly find as well. You have to be on the limit here if you want to try and put your car on pole position. And once again, though, the VCarb, I must admit, I really do like the white on this car, as there you go. That's going to be our first lap in the bin. And I haven't got enough fuel to go again. Right, should we try that again then? Second attempt as we head out onto the circuit. Let's see if we can actually try and get a lap time on the board then, as both Red Bulls currently down 16th and 19th, so similar to obviously what they were doing out in Brazil a couple of weeks ago. So Isaac Hadjar is currently the best Honda-powered car early on in this session, but obviously everybody, I'm sure, will go out for a run right at the very end. There we go, taking a lot less risk that time around as we make our way through turn 4. Of course, strict track limits this season. This is definitely going to be a circuit where that could potentially catch me out. The exit through there as well can be very brutal, but 7 tenths up already, purple through that first sector. But for some reason, the AI always struggle through Sector 1 here in Saudi Arabia, so that's not too much of a surprise as we weave and wind our way. Feels like there's very few points around such a fast track where you're not turning, at least somewhat. I know a lot of the corners aren't really corners around here, but you're always kind of having to adjust your steering, adjust the wheel around this lap then, as obviously currently our reference point is Max Verstappen in that Red Bull, and we are currently a second faster than the Dutchman.
Pushed down to P20.
He has done a 129.3 there, but yeah, still obviously that purple sector 1, green sector 2. Just trying to make sure I don't burn up too much battery, so I've got enough charge for the run back towards the start-finish line there, as I think we can afford to use a little bit, melt through it all as we get back towards the checkered flag. It is going to be a 128.3. We go 3rd, but Russell, interestingly, fastest. Mercedes have been nowhere this year, so that comes as quite a big shock. Mercedes power seems to be reigning supreme at the moment. All 4 cars in your top 4 right now are Mercedes powered, but it is Mercs with the 1-2 here. Russell still ahead of Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Could the Italian, obviously after a couple of DNFs recently, finally spring a bit of a surprise this weekend. One more chance though to try and get this car right up towards the front. Of course, we had a bit of a disaster in Bahrain qualifying. It feels like every other weekend so far this season I throw a little bit of a stinker out in qualifying, so hopefully this time around that is not going to be the case. Although immediately almost 2 tenths down by the end of sector 1. Oh, again, way too aggressive on the way in there, trying to flick the car as close to the inside wall, but carrying a bit too much speed. And it's going to cost us right the way through the rest of the S's and having a downshift through the end there just because I was worried about the understeer. Russell has gone even quicker up at the front of the order as now Lando Norris, of course my closest championship rival, slots up into P6. So I think we're going to get the better of him by the end of qualifying as well. But yeah, Russell, that is a real gauntlet ready for the rest of the cars this weekend. Oh, nice run there. Just grazing the Armco barrier on the outside as we activate the DRS. Looks like Piastri has been able to move up ahead of Carlos Sainz there. So, yeah, to be fair to the Spaniard, looks like a pretty good session for him in the Williams. Of course, already rumours that we could be replacing one of those Williams drivers come the end of the season. I'm not going to comment on it just yet. It's a long year in Formula 1 as well. There is one more corner to go. I've really got nothing to lose at this point, do I? Full send on the way in. Get on the throttle nice and early on the way out. We're going to be mighty close. In fact, we're basically going to set 2 identical lap times. P5, though, in the end. That's a bit disappointing. Well, looking at the gaps then, I think sensibly we could have probably gone quicker than Oscar Piastri, but those Mercedes at the front seem imperilous at the top of the order there. George Russell, brilliant lap, 127.5. Antonelli there goes 3 tenths away, but no one else able to get within half a second. Good job done by Isaac Hadjar, who will line up 8th, just ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto, and Franco Colapinto down in P11 as well. So the only driver yet to score that's further down is Lance Stroll, and he lines up last. Max Verstappen, though, 19th place on the grid. That, unironically, I think is the worst ever qualifying I've seen from the Dutchman. Slower than his teammate, slower than Hulkenberg, only quicker than Lance Stroll.
Good morning, good afternoon, or for us, good evening, as we're under the night lights of Jeddah. The floodlights are on and so is the pressure here at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah Street Circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Andrea Kimi Antonelli lines up on pole position. And Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Mr. Monaco, Lando Norris and Albon, Hadjar, Bortoleto, Leclerc and Franco Colapinto, Russell, Gasly, Fernando Alonso and Hamilton, Behrman, Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon and Nico Hulkenberg. Verstappen and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Well, there we go then. After a blistering qualifying lap yesterday, George Russell, 10th-place grid penalty. He will start down in 11th. That means that we have got one of the youngest ever pole sitters in Andrea Kimi Antonelli. What can the Mercedes man do today? He knows the car underneath him is quick. I think we're struggling a little bit for raw horsepower against some of those cars around us. And, well, a venue like this, raw horsepower is absolutely everything. Let's see what we can do, though. 25 laps ahead of us here on the Jeddah Corniche. The 5 red lights are on. And it's the lights out. Oh, and away we go there, trying to avoid any wheel spinners. Look at Carlos Sainz there. The Williams driver immediately trying to pounce for the lead, as we'll go wheel to wheel with our main rival, Lando Norris, down through turn 1 and turn 2 there. Antonelli using the power, though, off of the corner, obviously on the outside line. I'll hang on to the lead of the Grand Prix off the start there, but we are still in a McLaren sandwich as we weave our way through the S's on lap 1. Super, super important, of course, especially on a proper street circuit like this, that you ease the car in, you get into a rhythm, build up some momentum as early as you possibly can. As look at that, Piastri clearly with some confidence of turn 11, I think. I'm pretty certain the banking is turn 12, isn't it? It's near impossible to remember corner numbers around this circuit there. I mean, look at that already. Andrea Kimi Antonelli absolutely bolting at the front of the order. He knows he's got a golden opportunity to try and win today. What?
Your DRS is unavailable. The rear wing is down, so you can stay out while we work on a fix.
It's lap 1! How is this car already falling apart on just lap 1? So we're not going to have DRS for a little while then, and that is probably going to mean we're going to be a sitting duck early on in this race. Gabriel Bortoletto, though, he's had an incredibly good start as well. Just a little bit further back, as here goes Piastri to the outside of Carlos Sainz down at the final corner, who will get the power down a little bit better. Can we try and do anything from a little bit further behind there? I mean, they're neck and neck, but that Williams, a slightly lower drag setup, and he has got the speed, has he? Nope, they seem to just be wheel to wheel all the way back down in towards turn 1 there, as I've just got the best seat in the house for this one. What, 3 wide on the exit of the corner there as Piastri will perhaps get a little bit caught napping. We're still going to be side by side in towards turn 4. Oh, the McLaren man hits the inside wall, and I could tell he was going to do that. So I had to back out of it nice and early. Somehow, I don't know if he got any front wing damage from that one. I think he's got away with it. No, he definitely hasn't. I think he's losing a little bit of momentum through those next couple of turns. But once again, drama on lap 1. And once again, it involves Oscar Piastri. I guess that was lap 2, technically. But the point still stands. Chaos early on in this race. I've got no idea whether George Russell has made much progress. But I think Hadjar still running in your top 10 as well. I would say we can probably get a run on Oscar, but I've got no DRS, so I can't do a lot. We're going to have to just dump a load of battery to try and get around Oscar Piastri, but I'm more worried about his teammate Lando Norris. I mean, look at the rate of knots. The other McLaren is closing in on us there, as, yeah, Oscar definitely missing an end plate, so I don't know whether he's going to immediately dive into the pit lane. Nope, he wants to stay out then, so I think it's critical that we try and get the run now then on the McLaren man, as to the outside we will go back into turn 1. Lando Norris thinks about it as well there, but late decisive move on the brakes around the outside of the Australian. And hopefully now he can hold his teammate up through these next handful of corners. Had to make sure we got the move done before we head into the S's, and now, hopefully, we'll just watch that Delta climb. It's not. How on earth has Oscar still got grip on, with half a front wing? That's ridiculous. Well, finally then, on lap 4, our DRS even has come back online, so we should be able to get a run on Carlos Sainz in the not-too-distant future. We did set a new fastest lap, despite not having the DRS, but I was having to use way too much battery to try and stick with the Williams driver, but Antonelli, he has just escaped up the road and is looking to try and control this one at the front of the order. This is not where I really want to go for the move. To the inside, though, of Carlos Sainz. And we will get down the inside there and up then into second spot in this race. I just don't think the Williams has got the speed at the moment. Of course, they made huge gains last season, but ultimately have not been able to carry that momentum forward. Can we immediately get him out of the DRS there, as Piastri, to his credit, just seems to be able to hang on. But as we cross 1/4 distance then in this Grand Prix, I really do feel like a lion hunting down a gazelle. 2-time Formula 1 world champion coming up against poor Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who I don't believe has won a race still in this series. I don't think I've ever seen Andrea Kimi Antonelli win a Grand Prix inside F1 25, so this would be a huge moment for him if he's able to hang on to it. We do seem to reliably be taking about a 10th a second a lap out of him. But of course, strategy, pit stop window, everything like that could change things, as we've got yellow flags out for the first time today. I believe that is an Alpine blowing up. Is it Colapinto? Is it Pierre Gasly? It is Gasly. Frenchman, our first retirement of the afternoon. So you just see there a little wobble out of turn 12, and it's just removes the confidence. I remember you guys saying, obviously, before I started this season, that the V-carb could be an incredibly unstable craft. Haven't struggled with it too much this season, but Jeddah, you're really on a knife edge, aren't you, permanently around here, so any little moment you're gonna notice. But as we approach the pit window then, it looks like Carlos Sainz has completely screwed himself, because Williams have opted for a 2-stop strategy today. I know our tyre wear warning light has just flashed up, but tyre wear hasn't been that bad throughout the Grand Prix so far there, as I think we're going to be in this lap.
In this lap, in this lap. Push now.
There we go then. So yeah, definitely no need for a two-stopper here. Is Oscar Piastri then going to be one of our first cars into the pits? But I assume he'll be taking a new front wing, so it won't be much of a threat. But yeah, we've just been reliably taking about a tenth a second a lap out of Antonelli here. So we are a little bit quicker, but I'm just trying to manage things as best as I can. And, well, it's nice that obviously we've got the DRS, you know, online, but we haven't really needed it after the opening couple of laps. We have just been in no man's land throughout this Grand Prix so far. Zach Brown clearly doesn't want to pick a number one down at McLaren, because he has let his two cars battle with each other, and that has basically screwed over Lando Norris throughout a big portion of this race so far. If I had a nickel for every time McLaren failed to pick a number one driver, and it came at the benefit of a driver with a Red Bull backing, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. To the pit lane we will go then, as Andrea Kimi Antonelli diving in just in front, so I think he done a slightly better job nursing those tyres towards the end of the stint, because he just had a little bit extra over me on that last lap.
Let's just focus on this pit stop.
It is going to be a battle, though, in pit lane there, as it looks like Mercedes obviously opting for the hard compound tyre, as you would expect, as Isaac Hadjar to the lead of a Formula 1 Grand Prix. That's pretty cool to see. Fernando Alonso then jumping up into P2, as maybe Sainz there, of course, might have got a decent jump at the moment. So Antonelli comes out. Oh, no, I think Antonelli's hit Fernando Alonso on pit lane exit there. I saw a load of front wing flying. And are we suddenly going to gain a load of time out of Andrea Kimi Antonelli? I think, yeah, he's definitely got damage. I cannot believe it. Antonelli, who had controlled this race throughout the first half, all of a sudden now, it has all gone pear-shaped for him, as whether he was unsighted from Fernando Alonso or what. I make sure there's a replay up on your screens currently, but that has completely screwed over at least one of those cars, unless it's Fernando that somehow got damaged. No, I don't think so. I think Antonelli is in for a huge, huge disappointment here. He controlled this race right from the get-go, but it is not going to happen for him tonight. Surely he's going to need to get a new front wing there. As I mean, look at that. We've taken 2 seconds out of him in a single lap, and you can see the end plate missing on the right-hand side of that Mercedes car, and up then into what is effectively P1 of this GP. Can we make sure that VCarb have got a 1-2 temporarily here, as we will try... Whoa, Alonso! What is Fernando's problem, man? Moving around all over the track there, as he breaks incredibly early down into the final corner. But VCarb with a 1-2 then in this Grand Prix temporarily. It's going to disappear pretty much immediately. But Antonelli forced to dive back into the pit lane. Heartbreak for the Italian there. But I guess that means we're now into a pretty comfortable P1. Oh, that's my first warning of the day, and maybe a second one through that first chicane. As now, Albon and Sainz second and third, but they've still both got a pit. Max Verstappen, their new fastest lap of the day, but I'm not even sure he's going to score a point tonight. Well, I've got a feel for Andrea Kimi Antonelli at this stage of the night. Dominated the first half of running, and is now down in last place here. That must be heartbreaking for the Italian, but goes to show that he has got the speed. Just needs to make sure he works on the consistency and eliminating those little errors here. But less than 10 laps to go for us. I mean, again, how many times am I going to say it this season? Right place at the right time for us. We had good speed at the start. I think we could have tried to give Antonelli a bit of a fight towards the end of the afternoon, depending on what his pace was going to be like on those harder compounded tyres. But Gabriel Bortoletto now up into P5 there, as both Williams back into the pit lane, I believe, or they're steadily cycling back through. But once again, we have kind of been thrust into a Grand Prix lead here. 6 seconds clear of Lando Norris there, who seems to comfortably out now in P2. Obviously, unless something crazy happens, it looks like between myself and the McLaren man, it is going to be our third 1-2 finish in a row. Really trying to count down the laps then towards the end of the Grand Prix, and what might be our 4th win in 5 races this season. Of course, I'm trying to remember back. We won Abu Dhabi last season as well. Did we win Qatar? I'm trying to think how far back kind of our podium streak extends into last season. I can't remember what we managed to get it up to as well during our stint over at Red Bull, of course, because we had a pretty good carryover from Aston Martin as well. But I'm thinking about that, but I'm also thinking about the fact we've only had one DNF so far today. Could we still end up with a mechanical failure towards the end of the afternoon? I was always known as the F1 content creator that would get the mechanicals. I'm really hoping with a 5-second lead that's not going to happen tonight. But goes to show as well, Lando Norris, had his team not let Oscar Piastri hold him up, had he let them race for so long, Lando probably had the pace to win this race. He's taken bags of time out of us towards the end. But it probably is too little too late. More lap to go then here from Jeddah, and it's safe to say we have just been able to control the pace in this second stint then. As soon as we got that lead from Andrea Kimi Antonelli, I knew we needed zero risk, minimal push, and just make sure we get to the checkered flag in P1 there. But despite a rough qualifying for others, the cream most certainly still rises to the top. Max Verstappen battling with Charles Leclerc from the back of the field there, but it looks like for the third time in 5 races, I believe, Shanghai, Japan, and now here in Jeddah, it is going to be an all-British podium yet again. Lewis Hamilton, from way down the order, has been able to recover in what has been quite a quiet, stealthy drive. Looks like he's going to bag another podium finish, but Lando Norris, though, like I said, he will be seething with his McLaren team there, that they allowed Piastri to hold him up for as long as he did. I'm pretty certain Piastri never even bothered taking a new front wing, and even now still is running in P6 there. But as we wind our way through the final few corners of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, there's only so many times you can call it luck, but I do still feel like everything is falling into place for us so far this campaign. It is going to be win number 4 from the opening 5 Grand Prix there. The 3rd race in a row where Lando and I finished 1-2. We are so far ahead of the rest of the order right now, but I'm really hoping it's going to be a proper dogfight throughout the course of the campaign. Out of the final corner, we are going to be back on top again.
Absolutely awesome. Just amazing, mate. Well done.
A sterling effort from the team and a magnificent drive to secure victory here at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Well, are we looking at a champion in waiting today, Crofty, with that kind of performance? They were driving with the kind of lack of pressure that you quite often see when a driver knows, they just know within themselves that that championship is within their reach.
As we await the winners to take their positions on the podium, one thing is clear today. RB have really shown their prowess on the track. This is a team that isn't afraid to take risks, whether that's on the circuit or in the new talents they hire. Today, those risks certainly paid off.
Well, there we go then. From 4th on the grid to P1 come the checkered flag. Once again, we stand victorious here. 2.6 seconds clear of Lando Norris. And Lewis Hamilton, though, from 14th to 3rd. Seems like, at least in this save, his Ferrari move has worked out pretty well so far. Charles Leclerc in 4th. Verstappen, though, from the back row to P5 in the end, ahead of Oscar Piastri. George Russell, I honestly expected him to do a little bit more today, but more points on the board for Isaac Hadjar as well. Means once again, we will have outscored Red Bull, and I think we've outscored McLaren as well this weekend, so we can be pretty happy with that. Fernando Alonso gets the final point there, just ahead of Colapinto and Bortoletto, so their first points of the year will have to wait another day, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, they're gutted all the way down in P13. Just Pierre Gasly, though, that failed to see the checkered flag. What does that do to our championship standings? Well, it means now we're back to a healthy 25-point buffer ahead of Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton a further 26 behind, ahead of Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. So I believe believe, yeah, apart from Leclerc and Verstappen, your top 5 in that Grand Prix, your top 6 in that Grand Prix were your top 6 in the current World Championship order. Hajjar rejumps Nico Hulkenberg up to P13 as we still wait on those 3 at the rear of the field. Constructors-wise, though, 5 points now back behind McLaren, as Ferrari still right there as well. Red Bull in a bit of no man's land, and Mercedes, it could have been a weekend where they could have tripled their points all this year, but it just was not meant to be. Thank you all so much for watching, though. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns out in Miami.